Hello all, welcome back to the channel and the final part of our Sentinel Workspace setup video series for the SC200 exam guide. Take it away, Ben.
Workspace manager. So earlier on, I think I said, Peter, remind me when you've got multiple workspaces. Ta-da!
Indeed. There you go.
this is where it becomes relevant. So Workspace manager is still in preview, but it's a feature that I know quite a few people use. If you've got multiple workspaces across your environment, you can have one that manages them all, basically. Yeah. Think of it, for those who are aware of Azure Lighthouse, it's like that, but for log analytics and Sentinel.
Okay.
Yeah, and it tells you what you need. Minimum of 2 workspaces. It would seem obvious, but you need 2. Cool. Data connectors, like it says on the tin, we did just install one, so we should have it here. There we go.
Yeah,
so this is how we're bringing the data in. So it's not connected, so that grey bar is grey. It should be green when it's connected. We can see the sources that it's going to target. So we've got Office activity for SharePoint, Exchange, and Teams, and this is that entry level one. So if you've not got any Defender licensing or whatever, you could certainly monitor your Exchange mailboxes for the auditing. You could build out those rules. I think whilst we're at it, we might as well just enable it.
Cool.
It's going to think about it. So it confirms that I've got read-write permissions to the workspace. It confirms that I've also got tenant permissions. So because this comes back to the argument of Azure RBAC versus Entra and the permission structure over there. Why wouldn't we do Exchange, SharePoint, and Teams?
Yeah.
And I'm bold in ticking all the boxes and say, why wouldn't we? I think everything needs to be justified of why you would put it in Sentinel. Unless someone can tell me, I'm going to use a really weird example. I wouldn't put like printing logs in here. I wouldn't put like public Wi-Fi. If you do some kind of guest Wi-Fi logs or something like that, I might want to know if somebody's trying to repeatedly do it. Yeah, you need to think everything has a cost when it goes into Sentinel. You need to try and plan what you're going to take. I wouldn't take printing logs. I mean, if you was like a managed print house or you manage printers and you manage the logins, maybe you need to understand the value of that data when it lands, because it's not going to be free to store. Because whilst it's free to store in the first 90 days, you still pay log ingestion costs.
Yeah.
So if you're going to send volume of data, yes, it's good that it's being stored for free, but you're still going to be charged. So there needs to be, really do plan if we're taking this because it's going to come across the Microsoft platform. Like I say, I think this is one of the free sources. I'd have to double check myself off the top of my head, but
I think it is
sure.
too, actually.
Yeah, I think it is. Like, it's something that I should know offhand, but typically I end up talking about paid ingestion and sources that are not free. So the free ones kind of just allude from memory, like the road from memory very slowly. So yeah, think about what we're connecting. I think that comes back. It'll come back in as well. So we're going to apply those changes. It's going to validate that even though it's checked the permissions, says success. We've got a green bar. What I will say, you will not see logs straight away. There is a delay. There is a delay before you start seeing the activity, and we can see that because we can't see anything yet. So give it time. We'll run through this video. We'll come back and check, and hopefully we start seeing some logs at that point.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, fingers crossed. You know what they say about live demos? They all go according to plan until they won't go according to plan. But yeah, we've got our connectors in. We're going to get some data in here.
Cool.
From an analytics perspective, this is where our KQL is stored. Now, we've still only got one rule, and for the eagle-eyed or well-remembered, you're going to go, Ben, we got a load of rules for the data connector that we just installed and enabled. Yes, we did. They're under the rule templates, and we can see the data sources. So we did get them. Now,
there you go.
Cleverly, I mean, I'm on the fence because I can see both sides. Is that if I install the data connector, I want the rules, or if I install the data connector, I want to pick my rules. I can see the argument for both cases. I prefer. Okay, it's a bit of a faff, but I prefer not having the rules in straight away. It allows me to be a little more controlled, to enable the rule that I want to enable, because what could happen is we could enable a rule and receive a load of alerts after enabling it.
I got you.
So, yeah, for argument's sake, yes, I see both sides, but yeah, I prefer to enable them one by one.
Yeah, makes sense.
We'll just pick the first one, malicious inbox rule.
Yep.
Super straightforward. We all know business email compromise, and if we don't, typically gain access to the account via phishing link, spam email, once username and password, or they've got granted access to the mailbox, the first thing that they're going to do, inbox rule, move either any incoming mail for a specific syntax into a folder away from site, or they move all inbox, all mail coming in to another folder. If you don't know that, go look at business email compromise. It'll become a lot clearer why we're picking this rule. For that, create rule, super easy. We're not going to change any defaults. We're just going to leave them. We see MITRE attack again, and we do the drop down, and we can see where it's been highlighted. So we've got defense evasion, persistence, and probably a few under that as well. We're going to set it to enabled, of course. I mean, you could set it to disabled and turn it on at a later date. Doesn't really matter. Yeah. Rule logic. So this is just a KQL query. This is what we're looking for. And when you're building your own custom analytics, it most likely be built on KQL. So we'll look for, so this is referencing a table here. Early that we was talking about early on, where we had none. So when we go back after this, we'll circle back shortly. We should see an office activity table created, and that's where all the events are being stored.
Right.
And ultimately, for those who know SQL, you'll probably realize KQL is not too far away from what you would perceive SQL syntax to be. So yeah, cross-referenceable skills.
There you go.
Nice infrastructure guys, you know SQL, might have a new career in security. So we're filtering it down where office workload is Exchange, and like I say, we can go look at the tables, because a lot of the time when I first started out with Sentinel, so I started playing with it, it's like, well, how do I know what to filter? How do I build my own? And it started with looking at the tables, looking at what comes in, and then just playing around with KQL. Like I say, we're building quite a big. It's not even that big, to be fair. We're just filtering down to this point where we're going to extend the events, and now we're going to start parsing some of the contents, and that just means that we'll be able to get that information back. So yeah, it's a fairly, like I say, it's not a super long KQL query. I've seen longer, but yeah, it's all good. Now, if you're building your own rules, you can change the entity mapping. So this is what full name maps to, this is what name maps to, and you can change these values if you really wanted to. These are just as part of the rule, but you can do that you can add some custom details, you can add some alert details if you wanted to change that slightly. You can query scheduling. So what this does, it runs every 1 day. Now, for a malicious inbox rule, that might get created in a working day. So you might want to change that to every 12 hours, every 8 hours. But then the important bit is that if you do change the run every day, or when you run the query, should I say, you most likely will need to look at the last data as well. So it kind of matches. So you got run every day, but look at the last day. But if you run that every 8 hours and look at the last day's worth of data, what's the point? You might as well run it once every day. So like this is where the scheduling is. So there are some rules where this doesn't apply. So like fusion rules and near time alerts, near real time alerting. But yeah, you can be as aggressive as you want with this. But obviously, thinking logic is that if you run this every 5 minutes, I think is 5 minutes the least. Yeah, 5 minutes. If you run it every 5 minutes, it might not pick anything up. So it's finding that balance of what's appropriate to what's not.
Gotcha.
Now you get a lot of people creating mailbox rules. Yeah, you're gonna potentially get a lot of alerts, and obviously there's other things to explore around creating those inbox rules as well. So yeah, just be mindful. Start running automatically, or you can set a particular time. It doesn't really matter. Alert threshold. This is good when say you've got password attempts is a really good example of this one. 3 password attempts, you're locked out. Well, you wouldn't want an alert generating on 1 or 2. Only on the 3rd one, 4th one, 5th one, 6th one, as it increases. So super useful once again, but for an inbox rule, we don't care. The second one's created, we want to know straight away. So that's why it's set to 0. And do we want to group them? Comes back to that kind of lockout, password spray, multiple attempts, brute force attack. I'd probably say for certain alerts like that, you'd want to group them all into one and see the number of attempts under one ticket. You might want individual tickets. It's how you then work those tickets, those incidents, whether you've got some automation that kind of groups them all together, or you might send them to another ITSM tool via an integration, and you want to handle them over there because it forms part of your reporting. Like I say, it's all down. It's configurable on the rule.
Amazing.
It doesn't really matter. I mean, you could group them all. You could group quite a few things, but your KQL would have to be the capture point. So if your KQL doesn't capture it, there's no point then having the group with it. If you see what I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm with you. Gotcha.
And yeah, you've got suppression as well if you wanted to turn that on. Incident settings. Yes, we want to create incidents from this, and the grouping's disabled. All customizable once again down to your taste. Now this is just the default rule. So because it's a rule template and we're creating a rule off it, it doesn't mean that you can't change this. Of course you can. So I can slide that to enabled. It unlocks all the fields. Slide it to disabled. It grays them all out again. Automated response. This is where the SOAR element comes in for Sentinel. Now let's say you've got. We'll use the password, the brute force attack one. You've got an account that has 3 attempts, and on the 4th attempt, if it lands, you want it to then do some automation. Brilliant. You want to disable the account or reset the password and notify the user or the line manager. You can build that out with a playbook. You don't have to connect anything here. You can name the automation, you can do some bits, but you can also add an action to run playbook. So you can do some triaging with your tickets, but you can run playbooks here as well.
Excellent.
Like I say, there is, I won't call it a full-blown ITSM tool built into Sentinel. There is a basic one that you can allow to see those alerts. So
cool.
Whatever you want to use. Next, review and create. It's once again, you see validation passed. We see the KQL and the rule details, and we just scroll down, save. I spent some time on that, but it's important to know. And now you can see that we've got 2 rules now. That's what we're looking for.
Gotcha. Yeah, taking shape. Excellent. There you go. Wow.
Summary of rules. Wait, loads. Another preview feature, but you can summarize. You can create rules to then summarize certain actions and whatever you need in Sentinel. Can't say it's a super strong feature that I've used. But it's there. It must have its value for some people.
Yeah.
Watch lists, super useful. There's that phrase again. Super useful. Key value pairs, and you can create. There is an upper limit in your watch lists. I don't want to say 30,000. There is a number somewhere. Typically, I'm going to use the royal we. We use these for. You could use them for VIPs. So to say that who's a VIP and who's not, who might trigger things, or you want to triage them a little faster. Do you want to list office locations and IP addresses? that's also an option. Like I say, you can do what you want with a watch list. It's just a way of enriching it. When you start getting the needs for more, I think Cosmos DB comes into it at that point, and you can link that in. Never needed to do that though, but I can imagine on a larger scale, you would potentially hit the watch list limit very quickly in your enterprise environment. So, like I say, another source of enrichment that you can control, not necessarily threat intelligence, not necessarily something floating around in the environment, but like I say, VIPs, office locations, stuff that you can configure and control.
Brilliant.
Automation, what it says on the tin, this is where your playbooks are created. And we've got automation rules, playbooks, and we've got playbook templates. So we can go to the content hub, pull stuff in. Brilliant. We can create our own. Typically, logic apps is what you'll see at that point. But yeah, for sure, super useful. So you can build up that if someone's experiencing a password spray or brute force attack and you want to disable the account. Brilliant. Yeah, you build it out in a logic app, make a graph API call if you want to disable that user account, email the manager. All can be done. All can be done. Once again, this is only limited by your own imagination. So if you wanted to automate the absolute hell out of everything, this is where you'd be. Caveat, if you do, you will pay the logic apps. So you obviously get free consumption in the logic apps in terms of minutes, I think it is off the top of my head, or executions. So if you automate everything, you might find that your automation costs will go up. And that kind of comes back to that earlier point of planning where you have everything. So what you could do, you could have Sentinel, all your data connectors, and a few of your workbooks in one resource group. You can move your automation into another resource group. And then that way, from a billing perspective in the Azure portal, you'll be able to see the difference between the two from a subscription resource group perspective. So, like I say, the planning piece is super important, how you want to structure it. And it doesn't mean that you can't put everything into one resource group and then slowly move out as you get bigger or as you scale, create another one to then start putting other bits there. 100%, the resources are flexible like that. But yeah, sure, there is a cost to automation, but there is allowances that you can consume first before that cost starts. But yeah, there is a permission element as well. Sorry, that was hiding at the bottom. I need to call out, you don't just get permission for it to do it straight away. You have to.
I guess, yeah. Okay.
Settings.
Gigabytes per day.
Quick drink of water. But here, an important part, I'm not going to say that, you need to be aware of. If you are of scale and you are consuming 100 gig a day or more, having a reservation in pricing is super useful. You can see 31% discount over pay as you go. And this is on that ingestion costs. Again, if you are on Defender for E5, the ingestion allowance per user comes off. This is where you want. You'll see it in the graphs. Because we've not got no data, we can't show the graphs. But that ingestion, that 5 meg per user that you get, and then there are other ingestion benefits as well. This will start coming off whatever you do. So if you're still using 100 gig a day and you've got ingestion benefits, definitely explore the capacity tier, because like I say, you get discount, and the more you ingest, I mean, this volume is unreal. Like,
wow.
Yeah. I mean, that is volume. To say the least. I mean, we're on the pay-as-you-go tier, which is £4.14 per gig. And that seems quite a lot, like per gig.
Yeah.
But when you think that, say you was a relatively small business and you were sending say you was sending event logs, and your event logs didn't grow to more than 50 meg, 100 meg a day, well, you're not paying much Do you know what I mean? So like it seems a lot, but also there's other ways and means. If you speak to some very clever people who understand the Microsoft licensing, it might be easier that you deploy Azure Arc with Defender for Cloud, for example, and you can offset some of that cost because then it becomes a Defender for Cloud resource. Okay, you're paying for Defender for Cloud, but we can pull the alerts from Defender for Cloud into Sentinel. We can pull other things, so like EDR. So if you're using Defender for Endpoint, we can pull those logs into the XDR portal, and we can get the XDR portal to just send the notifications, or we can pull the logs into Sentinel as well. Like I say, there's a few ways that you can go about this, and it's understanding what you've got and how we're going to get it into either the XDR portal or Defender for Cloud or Sentinel itself. But have to call it out. If you are ingesting a lot, take the capacity tier, because you will save money instantaneously.
Yeah.
But you commit to that tier, obviously. Settings. So there's the user and entity behavior analytics. We can set that. Yeah. We can go in there and we can start turning on machine learning and set the size and stuff like that. Anomalies. This is default, so I haven't touched this prior to this recording. So this is just with the workspace. Workspace manager configuration. We've not configured it, so there's no need to do anything with it. We'll just minimize some of these as we go through. Playbook permissions. So that's what I was referencing in automation. You can click that and that'll configure it.
Cool.
How we use your data. So there is obviously some analytics. You can opt in, opt out. There's the tick box for it. Auditing and health monitoring. Super useful.
Super useful again. Like, there we go.
It's the one. Yeah, there it is again. You can without this on, you won't be able to see anything health wise. Right. So if there's an outage or if there's something wrong, you won't be able to see it. One of the things that's often overlooked when provisioning Sentinel is enabling this bit, and all you're doing is you're configuring the diagnostic settings. It's one click of a button. So if you don't take anything else out of this video, just click that button. It will enable the health monitoring. So like when you're troubleshooting something across Azure, especially if diagnostic logs are not turned on, it's hard because it's not like it's infrastructure that you can just pull the logs from, like on-prem, or like, you know, if you own the kit in a colo location, you can just get the logs. Like you can go to the Windows event logs, for example. I'm not saying you can't do that on a Windows box here, but certainly from a platform perspective, if you configured a load balancer or Sentinel or something like that, you don't get them logs by default. Like you get some basic stuff depending on what you've configured, not what you've configured, but what you've picked. But the diagnostic settings are the ones that you need sometimes. Cool. And last but not least, remove Microsoft Sentinel. This is if you opt out. So it just removes it. And yeah, I'd fill in a couple of boxes, hit remove, it's gone off the log analytics workspace.
Alrighty.
We can still jump into the workspace settings. So this is where the log analytics workspace is. So as we said before, log analytics at the bottom, Sentinel on the top. You can remove Sentinel off the top, but ultimately it's still log analytics at the bottom. And here we can still go into the settings. We can look at the tables. Should be office activity when it loads. Survey says maybe. There we go. Hey. So there's actually a lot more. But in here, office activity is there. There's an Azure table. It's using the workspace default of 30 days. But we can go into, it's not properties. Where is it now? I'm going to click every one until I find it. I knew there was a global slider. There is a global slider. So you could do data retention, and because you've got Sentinel applied, you can pipe that up to 90 days.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's set at the log analytics. I knew there was a global slider.
But patience pays off.
Yeah, they just change everything all the time, or the menu option doesn't become
They love to do that. They'll have a bit of change.
Yeah, And look, we can see now, obviously, the workspace default is 90 days with a total retention of 30. But what we can do, which is super useful as well, let's say we didn't want to keep those for the workspace default. We can manage the table. We can also come in the interactive retention, and we can knock that down to 30 and override it. So this is where that optimized piece comes in, where you come back around and start looking at what you're using, what you need to keep. And yeah, you can override the workspace retention. Easy peasy.
Amazing stuff.
We're just going to say that, cancel that off. But that's Sentinel. Well, I suppose we've talked a lot about Sentinel, and we've not talked about the other things as well.
That's been absolutely great. I think that's a great place for us to wind up for this one, because we've got through a lot of content. So incredible. I'm just going to remove the sharing, and then we'll have a little wind up. So wow, I've learned so much there. Amazing stuff, my friend. And a lot of it, when you know how, nice and simple. There's a lot of little hidden gems in there, but really, really super useful in your own words on many occasions on that video.
Sure.
So let's wind this one up, and we'll be back very, very soon with more SC200 content. There's lots more to explore in this area of Sentinel for sure. Thank you, Ben. I appreciate your time on a Sunday morning, especially after we've both had very busy weeks. And thank you all for watching. Please do remember to hit the like button, the subscribe button, the join button if you want to become a member, and we'll see you on another one really soon. Take care all. Bye-bye.
Cheers.